Stop Podcast, a childless community podcast with Michael Hughes, Berenice Smith and me, Sarah Lawrence. If you're new to this podcast, we're here to delve beneath the surface of the childless identity, to cover what's going on in the wider community and to look at the topics that really affect us. Our goal is to help and support those of you out in the community by sharing the stories and the voices that make up our narrative, so that you too can begin to find yours. We also aim to inform and educate those who aren't members of our community so that they can begin to understand and support those people in their lives who are facing a life without children. In this episode, it's just us. We're reflecting on our year and then we talk about Christmas. Yes, the dreaded C word, and all that it conjures up for us in the childless community. As usual, because it's unscripted, this episode went in directions we hadn't expected, but one thing was clear. We all still struggle with Christmas. So sit back, relax and enjoy this episode all about how we come to terms with Christmas and what it represents for us.
Good morning, evening, wherever you might be. This podcast, it's the December podcast of the Full Stop, and it's me, Berenice, with Sarah and Michael. We have no guests on this one because usually it tends to be the three of us, and we will be inviting people in via a recording, a little gizmo on our website where people can record a message and then we can pop it into the edited issue of the edition, publication, whatever, of the Full Stop. So it's just the three of us, and we're going to be asking each other some questions about the year, and then we're going to be talking about boundary setting, the complicated issue of boundaries, particularly at this time of the year and as we go into New Year and the start of the year. Back to all times, really, boundaries are important.
Yeah, particularly around Christmas though, isn't it, I think? What can we or can't we do?
Yeah.
Those pesky expectations.
So Michael has given us some questions because he's on a long drive, weren't you, Mr. Hughes?
Yeah, much to your horrors. Yeah, I had 7 hours in the car yesterday, so came up with lots of stuff, lots of questions. I was wondering, how was your year, though? If you were to round up your year, how was it?
What, in one word?
One word, one sentence, it's up to you.
Oh, you see, Bindi does this sometimes.
Does she?
Yeah, it's how are you doing? And it's sort of like in a sentence or a word. There's a few of us sort of, not verbal diarrhea, but no, I can't do it.
It's a really pointed statement, isn't it? It's kind of, I know when I start a counselling session, I go, how are you? And everyone goes, oh, that's a really pointed, loaded statement. And you think, yeah, it is really, isn't it? It's putting people on the spot, isn't it?
I'm going to say roller coaster.
Really?
But out of my comfort zone a bit, but then actually in it. Yeah, and actually a lot about boundaries. Yeah, actually going back to sort of, what we're going to talk about later. Definitely doing some really fun work about boundaries, but actually myself and my boundaries and not staying in my lane as well. It's been very challenging to do that sometimes. And some quite difficult decisions as well. I think it's the year I grew up. There you go. That's what it was. The year I finally grew up.
Year of adulting.
I know. Yeah, I'm not doing that again. Thanks, Tar.
I don't think my year's been the same, really. I've had a lot of change this year, I think. I think it's predominantly trialling, going back to employment, which was a shit show of epic proportions. Is about all I can say about that. And then I guess a few months recovering. I think I was saying it to my husband the other day. It has been a bit of discovery. Boundaries, realising that I don't deal well with dickheads is a big one for me, I think. And actually not being too upset by that discovery. I'll be honest. It's I think it is boundary setting, isn't it? And when I say dickheads, I mean in a corporate world. I don't mean out and about. I don't generally come across people like that when I'm out and about as myself or in the counselling realm. It was just trying to go back into something corporate was a big no-no. and I realised very quickly that it was a mistake. But it took a few months to get myself back on an even keel, I guess. So, and Berenice has been very instrumental in that, in helping me with my website, because that was almost like me coming back and going, ta-da, I'm here. Whereas actually I spent quite a lot of time hiding and not really being 100% sure how I'm turning up. So yeah.
I love doing that with you. It was brilliant. It's been so lovely.
It was really fun.
It's so funny. Yeah, an awful lot of talk about trees.
Well, yeah. And you saying stuff to me, go, huh? You what? Can you translate that for me, please?
Yeah. Here's a short fat tree and here's tall tree, and here's some blue trees. What are we going to call this tree? Yeah, that was brilliant to watch you do that, Sarah. I think you're amazing. Really, really brilliant. Yeah.
And obviously, I think Chester was a highlight for me as well. So that was in that voyage of discovery. But what about you, Michael?
I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to say roller coaster as well. Sorry, I'm not very creative. The first half of the year, I'm going back, things are going along, swimming, fairly well. And then I've got a new boss at work. That's always a bit unsettling. My work has been somewhat, unpredictable, very unstable. Let's put it that way. So there's been lots of movement, lots of people moving, leaving. So that always leaves you very unsettled. So there was an undercurrent of that. And of course, as much as I don't want work to be part of my identity, it pays the bills. And there's an added incentive, because I'm very open about the fact that I want to retire at 60. And so there's that incentive to just last out 3 more years, which actually creates a little bit of anxiety, because you're sort of, just 3 more years, don't change anything for 3 more years. But then, of course, with the podcast, because one of the reasons I want to retire is because I want to do more stuff with the podcast, with the childless community, but just haven't got the bloody time. And then, we've got aging parents, which is another level there that adds to that roller coaster. Then of course, starting our online community, Chester, the build up to that, and now feeling that I have to say, and I think I can speak on Vicky's behalf as well, that we're feeling really flat right now, really flat. And I think there's probably a whole episode about coming back from being overseas, seeing you guys going to Chester and the hype of all that, and then coming home to the realities of, oh, here we go again. So yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest, I've noticed you felt a bit flat lately. It must have been hard, because there was all that build up, wasn't there? It was such a thing. We were all really excited about meeting each other, meeting Vicky, and then it's kind of like, oh, it's done. It's finished.
It's done. It's finished. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely get that.
So yeah, it's been an interesting time. Interesting.
Yeah.
And let's throw something in here that's a bit kind of like off-pole, but one thing that I felt that's been important as well was how I think we've all got to know each other better, the richness of going to Chester and actually meeting lots of people that we've seen before, people we've known before, but actually in a different way, because the last time we probably all gathered together was Fertility Fest, and we weren't doing the podcast then. It was not even an idea the first time when we met, Michael. And then when Sarah and I met, we'd got the little cards. And what I find now, having met you both and having met Vicky and everybody else, is that, that's to counteract the flatness a tiny bit, is that actually that feeling of knowing you all better is just amazing. I think that's probably, it helps maybe you and I, Sarah, with the website a bit. not that necessarily, we're close, I think, anyway, but it was nice to, I knew who you were, knew you better, and to just catch up again and spend time with Michael and Vicky, but with other people as well. There's a big richness there, and that hasn't gone away. It's still there. It's still, settling in here today. And we know each other better to pick up on those vibes. And that's quite a lovely and special thing, that we actually did all meet, that we're still quite committed to the podcast. Nothing fell apart. We didn't go, oh God, I don't like you anymore. Gone off you. Even when you said, Michael, when we were down at Storyhouse in the having a cup of tea, do you remember when you were sitting there you had the beer and I had the cup of tea? We sat with Bindi and a few other people, and Helen Louise Jones was there as well on the other table. We were all sat there in Storyhouse, and Michael said, I'm the ideas person, Berenice does the details. Do you remember that? You said, and I've got a long drive coming up when I go back. I'm like, oh crap.
Oh my God.
Don't you dare. I'm going to come over to Australia and I'm going to garrot you. Bindi was there. I think she might mean that. And it's just the lovely, and I just remember that so vividly. It was so funny. But yeah, it's lots of memories. We're going to go back and revisit them again, I'm sure, and it's painful, but isn't it lovely that we all are still here, and it's brought the podcast so much closer. I think it's a commitment now, part of the adulting I was referring to earlier.
So how did I'm interested to see how you guys reacted to some of our audience approaching you and going, really love the podcast and that sort of thing. Did you find, because you've both admitted that you're both introverts, how did you find that?
Do you know, it was it wasn't like people were running up going, can I have your autograph, which is for me that would be the ultimate ick. It's kind of like, because that's not really for me what it's about. But what I liked actually, and I think it carries on from really what Berenice was saying, like when we met in London as well, we had Chester and then we had London as the podcast. And what I really loved about it was that actually there wasn't that. It was just a bunch of people meeting, and it was very egalitarian, if you like. There wasn't the fact that we were all, oh my God, you're the podcast. It was, oh, hi, we're the podcast and we're the community. And everyone was sort of, I remember looking around, when we was out, we were at the pub, weren't we? And we had that area. And I remember looking around at one point going, there isn't one person here looking really sort of out on a limb or like they're struggling or, you know what I mean? It was just a really lovely, sort of inclusive atmosphere, and people were sort of changing and sitting with different people naturally. For me as an introvert, the worst thing you can do is when I'm sat somewhere and you say, right, everyone get up and shuffle around and talk to someone different. That for me, my stomach drops, because it's like, I'm very comfortable here, thank you. I've just built a rather lovely conversation, and now you're going to move me to somebody else that I don't know, and I've got to start over. But that didn't happen. It was just a really gorgeous atmosphere, wasn't it? Where everyone was just chatting. There was no one looked like they were left out. And I think so that for me, that fear never materialised. So I didn't have to think about it.
It's interesting when you look through the photographs. They're all smiles.
They are. Yeah, it's lovely.
So Vicky took a lot of photographs, and when you look through them, everyone's got a smile, which is beautiful. Really, really nice.
The same for me as well. I'm just going to say that, what you said, Sarah, was the same. I think for me, it just brought home that it's nice to have the full stop as a thing. So I find for me, because I don't know whether it's because, doing design and doing bits and pieces, I get kind of not roped into things. That's not an unwilling thing. It's a general pleasure and delight to help people if I can. And I like to do that, but I often sit in the background or the periphery of things, which I'm quite happy with. It's where I'm best at. I quite like doing all of that stuff sometimes, not always, but the creative stuff is where I'm happiest. But what was lovely was being able to go to something like Chester, or the last few years, I suppose, really anything that we've done online or wherever, and I guess, the focus groups for Storyhouse as well, was to say, okay, I have a thing that has an identity that is this part of my life called the Full Stop. And it's nice to be part of a collective, but it brought home to me going to all these events and all these conversations that it's not ours. It was everybody's. So everyone that turned up in London, everyone we've met, everyone we've spoken to, then the Full Stop is very much about everybody else. We're kind of like, we sit under the guardian, a gatekeeper for the moment until such time as maybe somebody else comes in and wants to do the Full Stop. It's a guardianship, I think, at the moment, but it's nice to have that. So for me, going along and seeing everybody there, it felt like people were quite happy to turn up and, you know, literally have a piece of the podcast, and they take it away with them and keep it. It's theirs. It's not mine. It's not ours. And I loved that. That was just amazing. I really, really enjoyed that. I think for me, being an introvert, my thing with being an introvert is that I have to sort of recharge in my own company. Mm-hmm. I can't keep going on and on. That's why I'm an introvert. My good friend John is a stand-up comic and an introvert. And he's always said the introvertism for him is the same. It's how he recharges. He's never been able to go out and do the party thing after a gig. It doesn't work like that for him. And that's the same as me. I have to go and sort of sit somewhere quietly. And yeah, it pushed my boundaries a bit because I didn't feel like I had a great deal of time to recharge. But that was me having to own some stuff and work with that, and that was okay. You know, there were some lovely moments, I think, in all of that where I was able to do that as well. Sarah and you went out to that pub on the Saturday and we just sort of sat and watched the world go by and had a natter, and it was just recharging. That's just two introverts together. That was the highlight of introvertism. You know, just it really was. You can stick a label on us and go, let's do. But yeah, it was just needing a bit of chill time. And that was okay, because that's managing kind of expectations. It's managing boundaries and going, okay, for me to do better later or to do better tomorrow, I need to recharge. And that's a nice kind of thing that I hadn't thought of before, and actually a benefit really from knowing you, and you know this stuff. And I've sort of gradually started to learn this stuff most from you. So thank you for that.
Hi, it's Anne Barrett here from the Blue Mountains, New South Wales in Australia. And firstly, I'd like to extend my deepest thanks to Michael, Bernice and Sarah Lawrence of the Full Stop podcast for creating a space where voices like mine can be heard. Your thoughtful content and genuine empathy go a long way to supporting the childless community, so thank you. I also want to take this moment to express my gratitude to two remarkable individuals who have been instrumental in supporting our cause here in Australia. Sarah Roberts and Judy Graham. Their dedication to advocating on behalf of the childless community is nothing short of inspiring. Both Sarah and Judy volunteer their time to educate businesses, fostering understanding and empathy towards our unique journey. Sarah, I want to personally thank you also for not just your advocacy, but for your friendship. Your understanding ear and support have been a source of comfort during some of my challenging moments. I am grateful to have you in my life as a colleague and friend. As we approach the holiday season, I wanted to share some words of encouragement, especially for those who may find this time of year particularly challenging. The holidays can be a complex tapestry of emotions, and it's okay to navigate them at your own pace. To everyone listening, remember that your journey is uniquely yours, and it's okay to acknowledge the mix of emotions that may arise. Allow yourself the grace to feel, and don't hesitate to lean on your support system. Reach out to friends like Sarah and Judy, or connect with the broader community. In shared stories, we often find solace and strength. May this holiday season bring you moments of peace, joy, and unexpected beauty. Your worth is not defined by your family structure, and there is a wealth of love and connection waiting to be discovered in the most unexpected places. Wishing you a joyful holiday season and a wonderful new year.
So what has challenged you this year?
Actually, let's ask you first.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay.
Right back at you. I'm sorry.
You were thinking what I was thinking, Sarah. I like this.
Fair enough. What continues to challenge me is, and it gets I think it gets easier every year, but it's still the biggest thing. It's try not to be that typical bloke. As we know, as Jodie said when we went to Storyhouse, did I bring my waterproof mascara? That my emotions, they sit very close to the top, so to speak. And that does continue to challenge me, I'll have to admit, because I can't say that I can't say I'm comfortable with it, but I can say that I am becoming comfortable with it, if that makes sense. And so that continues to challenge me. And I think St Pancras comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a couple of remarks there by a couple of gentlemen who said that, I've really made a difference in their life. And yeah, I had to sort of, no, please don't. Thank you, and I really appreciate that. But it started the emotions off, and I was a little bit uncomfortable because I'm around, don't get me wrong, I know the people around will totally understand, but it's about what goes on inside my head, and still hard to let that out at times. Obviously, I've become more comfortable with it when we're doing a podcast here. But yeah, when you're around a lot of other people, it's a little bit different. So it's a challenge, but not a bad one. That makes sense.
I was going to say, it must be hard. I don't know how you feel about this, but you are kind of a role model, aren't you, for guys in our community? So I wonder, does that put an extra pressure on, because you are kind of, I guess, front and centre, aren't you, around the men's community within this community?
I know what you mean, and I accept what you said, that yeah, I'm probably the most vocal, let's say. But from my point of view, I just see myself as just an ordinary bloke, just being visible, and that actually gives me courage. That's probably the best way of putting it. So from that male perspective, where you want to be, bravo and courageous and that sort of thing, that actually plays into that. So it plays into guys looking towards me. Again, I feel role models, but I feel a bit uncomfortable about that term. But if they're looking towards me, then that empowers me in a way that I'm doing something right, and I'm doing, I'm perhaps leading the way and showing other guys it's not that bad. So it really plays into that. I hope it makes sense, but it plays into that macho part of me, because it doesn't need to be emotional. It does. It just says, just look at what I do. But the weight comes on when you take in, other people's stories, and you become intimate with that. That's where the weight comes from. So in our last episode where we talked about why is no one talking about childless men, the weight of that weighs on me. That's shocking English, but I was never good at that. That weighs on me. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
There's boundaries again, isn't it? It's that fine line, isn't it, between taking on that emotion, but also empowering others to share their voice in some way as well, to engage. How did you feel about the men at Childlessness, at the Storyhouse rather? Because there was an awful lot there, wasn't there, doing different things, which was interesting to see.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I don't want to call out names because obviously I don't have their permission to do so. But, the guys that we've all met, it was fantastic, it was really good. And it was also interesting to see at Storyhouse, there was a lot of younger blokes there as well, which was quite interesting. And I sat next to a Dutch couple who were quite young. And, they were a bit more, I don't know what the word is. I wasn't, I don't want to say advanced, but I wasn't in the same place they are at their age. And they were young. They know they've got some issues, so they've come here to see what's on offer, what support they can get, and I thought it was fantastic. and I think that is testament to the whole childless community, that as we become more visible, we as a whole community, are doing some good.
Hi, full stop. It's Lou Ismail. I just wanted to say I'm so pleased the community exists, and it's been really good this year to have another area to meet more people and to talk to more people. Although I love the childless women's space, I do think there's such a fantastic range of possibilities having men and women together. I've really enjoyed the community calls and the being able to listen to the podcast and then ask questions, and I felt really welcome, and I'm really grateful for that. I wanted to say a huge shout out to my wonderful meditation teacher and dear friend Bindi Shah. She's absolutely fabulous, as I'm sure you will all know. Particularly Jay will know that. But she's such a support to her meditation group throughout the year, and holds a real space for us for experiences and events that have nothing to do with the meditation class, but she thinks very carefully about how things affect us and how she can help. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to her for that. And thank you Full Stop for creating the community. And thank you to all you lovely people that are the community, because it's just really lovely knowing that other people get it and that people are there. Okay, I wish you all a happy Christmas, a happy Hanukkah, a happy Eid, and certainly a happy New Year, or a happier one. Thank you.
What was the question again?
What has challenged you this year?
Challenges.
What's challenges?
Everything. I don't know. So many things. So many things. I don't know.
What was the first thing that popped into your mind?
Oh, something did, but that was about 5 minutes ago, and I've forgotten. I can't remember that far back. That was 5 minutes ago. Oh, I think probably, confidence, my ongoing issue with confidence. But that all being said, one of the things that's been interesting was kind of taking this kind of idea, and I know I've spoken to the two of you about it often, is about, okay, how do I kind of deal with that? And as some people might know, I'm doing a coaching course. And it took me a long time to kind of like work out what coaching course. And I'm really glad I'm doing the one I'm doing. It's with the University of Cambridge, which sounds like, ooh. And actually it's a bit ooh as well, because it is really good. I'm glad I'm doing this one because it really, really is challenging. Actually, it is. I'm learning a lot. There's an awful lot more to coaching than I thought. It's a bit like how you get graphic design, and you can get these courses that are, be a designer in 6 weeks. No, don't do those. They don't work. It's not teaching you design at all. And it's the same with coaching. And you've got to go quite deep into this. And it's a really good course to do. But what I realized was in doing that, and it challenged me to admit that, I want to get better at certain things, is that actually I know more than I think. So when I've gone in and I thought, I am, certainly in a design sense, I coach a lot because, and this is kind of formalizing that, but I'm starting to realize that it's going to lead to other things, not necessarily podcast, full stop related, not necessarily that, but other areas as well. So it's really interesting in that regard. So that's been a challenge, but it's been a good one. It's still a challenge because I've still got to find the time to study it. Again, back to boundaries again. And I think there's lots of stuff. I mean, setting up the online community was a leap of faith, a massive leap of faith for all of us. And setting it up was a challenge. Keeping it going and keeping it vibrant is a challenge. That's kind of like the Full Stop in a way has presented new challenges. The actual process of recording an episode now is still challenging, but we're getting to be a bit vaguely more professional at these things. But it's a challenge with that. There's also other stuff around, when we launched the podcast and things, and talking to you two and saying, look, actually, can we do this? Can we try that? And is there an easier way to do it? At the moment, my challenge is that it's taking a bit longer because I'm getting to learn new bits of stuff that will ultimately make it quicker and more seamless. But right now it's taking a bit longer to do. So I've got to kind of be aware that around that are boundaries as well. So yeah, it's been challenging, and emotionally it's been challenging as well. You know, the enormity of going to Story House, you know, all the focus group meetings, and the week after it finished, when we went, I went to Wales for a week and I struggled. I did struggle. I think I wrote about it actually in the last newsletter, that I went through a period of grief. You know, it's still sort of lingering a bit. It's been hard and really tough, you know, and I think it is. I think it's a sense of sort of grief that's done. Obviously looking forward to next year, but next year will be different. So it's a bit of grief there too, and I'm kind of struggling a bit with that still. But yeah, a lot of emotional stuff, but I'm learning to recognize that now. I'm not sure I'm handling it any better, but I'm learning to recognize it. Yeah, there's some mental health stuff going on as well, around stuff to do with probably the perimenopause. Maybe it's not, I don't know, but there's stuff going on with that that's been worrying me quite a lot for the past year, and also kind of my thoughts around that. And yeah, some of those have been a bit dark, and I'm starting to recognize those dark thoughts, and yeah, and that's hard, and that's as much as I want to say about that, but yeah, that's something I'm working on, and that is an ongoing challenge. And yeah, I'm starting to realize I've got to start factoring that challenge into my life and handling that a lot better, because it's been a problem that I've been ignoring over other things.
Hello everyone, this is Bindi Shah. I am constantly reminded of the bravery and courage there is in our Childless Not by Choice community. Yes, we have come together under circumstances none of us wanted. But just look at us. We're creating communities, we're creating workshops and classes, we're creating art and webinars, we're using our gifts to help in the world and to help us feel less than. Because often childlessness can feel less than enough. But I think that we are enough. And actually, we are more than enough. The support I've received has been incredible this year. I'd love to thank everyone who wrote into Stephanie at World Childless Week and suggested me for the People's Champion. This recognition has been so impactful for me, and I'm so grateful. 2023 will be a year I remember for a long time. The connection, the friendships. If you're new to your childlessness, do gently come into the Childless Not by Choice spaces. Start adding in connection and understanding to your life. All of our spaces are so welcoming. We'll be happy to have you.
Go on, Sarah. Now you can't get out of it. Now it's your turn.
I was going to say, how do you follow that? I don't know. Perimenopause is a bastard, isn't it? It does do a number on your mental health. I recognise what you're saying. I think my challenge this year was all around visibility, if I'm honest with you. I think the foray into employment really, I had to do a lot of self-reflection afterwards as to whether what was mine and what was theirs in terms of boundaries, really. You know, what was, when I went in and I did that just shy of 3 months working in that organisation, I realised how triggered I was by people, and I had to work out what was my trigger and what was their stuff, really. And I think it took me a good 5-6 months, really, to get over it. And I didn't really feel myself until a couple of months ago, I think. And it's not that I felt that actually I wasn't good at what I did. I was, but it was a reassessment of who I am and how I want to turn up. And I think a big part of that was, how do I want to turn up for the full stop? I felt at times that I've hidden away, and I do it a lot. I deflect to other people, and I think that's probably why I'm a counsellor. Don't look at my stuff. Let's look at yours. And I think I can do that a lot in my personal life. And I think this year has been really sort of basically working very hard on myself and being more authentic and being honest with people. I think there was a lack of honesty from me, I think, sometimes when things didn't sit very comfortably with me. And I think I've started working on that. And I think an awful lot around sitting with other people and fears around, do they like me? Do they think I'm an idiot? And a lot of that came up in that organisation. There was a lot of politics, and it was like trying to separate whether they had a problem with me professionally or whether it was me personally. And that's what really did a number on me. So, yeah, I think for me, the challenge this year has been shaking that off and reassessing who I am and just being more honest about who I am and how I turn up. And actually, it turns out that I'm not the person the bank was telling me I was. So I'm completely different to that. So, yeah, it's a challenge, and I'm still working on it, if I'm honest with you. But it laid bare a lot of my insecurities, and then coming on a podcast and pretending that I was all right was very, very hard, if I'm honest. That might be why in some of the episodes I'm quite quiet, or I'm deflecting a lot. So sometimes when Michael, you ask me a question, you'll hear that I don't answer it as me. I answer it in almost like the third person. I'm like, that's a bit weird. But I just wasn't prepared to be honest at that point because of all the shit with the bank, which I don't miss, I'll be honest. It was the worst decision I ever made, but also the best decision, because it meant that I gave up financial services and just focused on what I'm really passionate about, which is my counselling. So, yeah, the best of times and the worst of times. Who said that? That's a quote, isn't it?
Well, there's a song somewhere.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the best of times. Something like that. But yeah. So it was
Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities.
Thank you. Get me with me. Get me with me.
I knew it was Charles Dickens. I just had to check which one. There you go. Very profound.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's been my challenge this year. Being more authentic.
Well, thank you both for being so open and honest.
Well, thank you as well, because you were honest.
Yeah, you were. It's kind of where we show up. You can never fault us for being authentic. I did put onto the social media today, yesterday, whenever it went up, and it was about the invitation to come along. And if Michael said to you and I, you feeling festive? And we went, nah, we can't really hide the episode. We've got to keep going. And you couldn't really fault us for never being authentic. We're very good at it. And I think, again, that ties into stuff around when you said about what does it feel like when people were sort of going up to us and asking us about things, and that being present. And I don't know about you, Sarah, but I was just like, oh God, no one do the fangirl thing, because I just am me. I'm just boring, slightly kind of crazy haired me, and as authentic as it gets. And I'm kind of so pleased that people kind of saw that. It's just, I get as nervous as the next person. Isn't that the loveliest, in a way, not the loveliest thing, it's hideous when you're nervous. But I think it just probably, I really hope it goes to show that anyone can do this stuff. If you want to, then you can. You don't have to be professional. There's a thing that I advocate so much, which is launch the damn thing. And that's it. I think I've said that to you a few times, Sarah. So come on, Sarah, launch the damn thing. Come on. Because that's at the end of the day, particularly with websites.
Yeah. Well, I think I said that to you, didn't I, in the end? Because I was getting so pissed off with it. I said, let's just launch the damn thing. I'm sure one of Sage said that.
Yeah, you did. You emailed me that. Only see you around because I just want to launch the damn thing now. And I'm like, yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? It doesn't have to be perfect. Really, really doesn't. And I think that's the shit with the podcast. You went back to past episodes, which I've done. And they're hilarious because we really are like, oh, hello, well, like, okay.
Hello, everybody.
It's so funny. we had to get to know each other without knowing each other, and that's really hard. And then to turn up this year and go, actually, I still like you. That's good.
You know, that was the weirdest thing. I remember when we were going to go over to see you, weren't we, Berenice, that evening? And it was kind of like it's going to be this big reunion, almost meeting thing. And it's kind of like you turned up in the car, Michael, and we just sort of, oh, hi. And then we just started. And I was just like, there was no fanfare, no drum roll. It just was. And I was like,
no, we just pulled up the side of the road. Quick, Sarah, get in, we're off.
Yeah. And then we just started chatting, didn't we?
That sounds like something out of some cop show. Get in the car, we're taking you away. Podcast kidnap. Yeah, I got heckled in the street by him. I was like walking back from the car with something I've forgotten. It was just like, I can't remember what he said, but it was just heckling. And I thought, oh, I know that voice. Oh, it's you.
Yeah.
It was all a bit like that. It was all very casual. Then you walked into the kitchen, you were like, I need a beer.
Who was that? What, Michael?
No, you.
Oh, me. Sorry.
You were like, I just gonna have a beer.
Yeah.
And that was that. And it was just like it was, you know.
Yeah, just
Hi everyone, Catherine here. Now everyone knows that I'm a great cheerleader for our amazing community, and this is true, and I always will be. I just felt I wanted to say that before I say all my thanks and how grateful I am. I think the best way to put this is that since joining the Full Stop online community last summer, I've just really enjoyed getting to know you all better. And I've even discovered that Berenice and I are T-twins. How amazing is that? The monthly community conversations have been just so lovely as we not only discuss the profound and, you know, obviously very emotional issues that relate to our childlessness, but also, just as all good friends do, we just sit and chat about what's going on in our daily lives. I think from my point of view, I've sometimes got interesting things to say about my daily life. And then other times it's a lot more mundane from me. So that's what you get from me, I'm afraid. But I am looking forward to more of these great chats in the new year. Of course, the icing on the cake was our October in-person gathering. What a day! 5 exclamation marks. I had some lovely chats with dear Berenice and dear Sarah, and I really got to chat with you and learn more about you, which was absolutely wonderful. And these things really matter, I think, and help you, you know, sort of, it helps you sort of, you know, in the future with bonds when you actually, you know, get to know people so much more, of course. And dear Michael and Vicky, dear Vicky, were over from Australia. And of course, my dear friend Janine flew over from Copenhagen. So many precious memories. And I'm just so glad that I've got many photos to treasure and to look back on. Now, I just want to say a little special thank you to Janine, my dear and true friend Janine. You know I love you to bits, buddy, and for lots and lots and lots and lots of different reasons. But the main one I'll say here is, and I think the one that strikes me the most probably, is being able to share my love of nature with you. And we've just shared so many photos over the past 2 years, and it's just been an absolute joy. I've never met anyone who shared my passion of nature so completely, although there must be many people out there who do. But meeting you was just such, you know, it was my good fortune. And here's to load more pics in the future. Finally, Paul and I would like to wish you all a very happy Christmas and much peace, joy and happiness throughout 2024. Take care of your kind and gentle hearts.
Do you have any more killer questions for us, Mr. Hughes?
Is there something that stands out for your year? A highlight?
Not one thing. There are so many things. I couldn't, if I had to do like some sort of show reel of the year, then I don't know that there is, because there's been so much of it. Specifically for this community, then I would say I think all the focus group meetings have been fun. Working on Robert's book, but also working with the editor on that, who I won't mention. You have to go and buy the book, and then you'll find out. But anyway, for privacy reasons. And just knowing that she's around in my space in another part of my life is incredible. And actually probably just being a bit more open about the fact, yeah, I do, about full stop. And actually, I think, hang on a second, backtrack a bit. There is a highlight. There is becoming a CIC. That, because it felt emotional. It felt like this thing was a real thing. It feels sometimes to me like the full stop is actually like another person in my life. I can't sort of touch and hug them or anything, but the full stop, it's actually a proper thing. Not to say that anything that isn't a CIC isn't, because obviously it is. But I think having done it for so long, and then it's a CIC, it meant that, it meant like a big thing. It meant that it felt like it was sort of something that, if people sort of say, oh, what do you do? I do a podcast. Which is great, but let's face it, everyone seems to have a podcast these days about something. Which is great, but people have podcasts and they disappear. But when you turn around and you say, Full Stop is a podcast, we've had 57, 8, whatever episodes.
This will be 58.
58, thank you. Chief counter. 58 stats guy. Then we've got that. That's amazing, isn't it? And we're CIC. I've got a community and they're lovely. I just think that's been amazing to do that, because we didn't have the CIC, we wouldn't have a community. And I just love our community. Just been able to have more information and just have people kind of, guide us a bit and chat to us. And I've actually got people that are part of it, so it doesn't feel like we're just going out. We're kind of going, there's like a backwards and a forwards with the podcast now. It's brought something quite unique and special. So I want to just give credit to everyone in the community and just say thank you. Thank you. You're my highlight. The CIC, the Full Stop, that's just my highlight. They're not quantifiable things. They're not things I can pick up and hug, although I've hugged a lot of the community. But yeah, genuinely, just thank you from the bottom of my heart for just being there. You're amazing. And I'm going to get emotional, so I'm going to put myself on mute now and have a little cry in the corner. Thank you.
What about you, Sarah?
Pretty much, I think I'll probably echo what Berenice said. I think for me, the highlight was meeting people at St Pancras and Chester. It was kind of, I think with, we do a lot online, and then we had COVID, didn't we? And then it kind of made it very real when we met people. And actually, for me, I remember walking away from St Pancras feeling quite emotional, going, wow. Not that we've done it, that it was lots of people that were childless coming together, and you never see it, do you really? And there was not, and I loved that there was not one person sitting there feeling out on a limb or lost, and we all sort of came together, didn't we? And it was just a really lovely day, and I would love to have been bottled that up and just have a little sniff of it every now and again so I can remember it. And it's kind of that really stayed with me. And I think, having you and Vicky come over from, I know you said America, Australia, was really special as well. It's kind of actually, I mean, obviously we know you, but we hadn't got to meet you both. And I think that was really special. But I was glad there wasn't a fanfare around it. I would have found it really orcs if on our first meeting we had photographers and it would have been fake, and it wasn't. It was just we met up and we were just chatting, and that for me was just really valuable, rather than us all going, oh my God, we're all together and let's have photographs and pretend that it's this thing that it's not, when actually all it was 4 of us meeting up for the first time, but just really getting on. It was really good. And I will never forget the bag of Vicky standing at the end of the session with the Tim Tam, sorry. I'll back them and go, please, Sarah, please take some of these Tim Tams. Please.
I wonder if one of our members has still got her 2 Tim Tams. Do you remember? I'm not going to name names because again, but there is one person in the last the previous community conversation who turned up to it and go, I still got my 2 Tim Tams. So we were just like, wow, you still got them because we've kind of mainline and they're gone.
God, Mum, gone.
So for those who are not Aussie and we didn't meet in the UK, Tim Tams are a chocolate biscuit cookie that is if you come to Australia, that is the chocolate biscuit you have. And so we tend to, well, Vicky especially, she tends to buy a heap of them, take them overseas when we go. She should work for the Australian government as a trade envoy. I'm absolutely sure of that. But so we found where we could actually buy individual ones, and so we bought them over for Storyhouse. So at the end of our session, Vicky was giving out Tim Tams at the end of our session, just as that little Aussie thing.
They're like penguins, but they're better than penguins. You know, like they're chocolate penguin biscuits we get over in the UK.
They've been on social media. I did put them on Instagram. I took a picture of them, but we kind of need a video of some sort of challenge now.
Yeah, the Tim Tam challenge.
Yeah, we do.
Hi everyone, it's Katie Schnitzler here from Mist Workshops Limited, and I just wanted to wish a very Merry Christmas to, well, first and foremost, the Full Stop team. Thank you for all that you do. I find your podcast inspiring, innovative, and of course one of a kind. Also, Merry Christmas to all of the listeners, and thank you to those who came to listen to the workplace panel discussion, which I was part of. I was honoured to be part of this at Storyhouse Childless back in September, and I've just been overwhelmed with the wonderful messages, responses, and also opportunities arising from this event. So thank you for putting me in touch with your HR teams. I should say, for those that don't know, Mist Workshops, we provide training and different supports at work for people who are childless not by choice, and also related issues of pregnancy loss and infertility as well. So positively, we've provided more training than ever this year, with more work in the pipeline for next as well. Also, and I'm sure you noticed this as well, but I think there was more engagement than ever before during World Childless Week. So thank you so much to Steph for organising this and working so tirelessly to make change. And I think one of the biggest and maybe more challenging things that I've been trying to do with workplaces has been to get recognition beyond this time frame, beyond this World Childless Week, to recognise it as something that's affecting people every day. So I'm going to continue that work into 2024. And I wanted to say thank you to everyone for bravely engaging with your own organisations to better support childless not by choice employees. I do think it's incredibly brave, to speak out about something so personal. And lastly, just thank you to those working in this space, inspirational thought leaders that you are. There's so many to mention, but obviously the Full Stop podcast team, Jodie Day, Jessica Hepburn, Dr. Robin Hadley, and there are many more, but I've only got 3 minutes, so apologies for that. But yeah, I recommend your amazing work in my workplace training, and please just keep doing what you're doing. And of course, a big shout out to Steph for World Childless Week again. And Merry Christmas to every one of you who's listening. And I really hope you can find some time for rest and also have capacity for positive experiences wherever you can at this difficult time. Thank you so much.
So what's your highlight, Mr. Hughes?
Look, I have to say, growing up, adulting and starting the CIC and starting our community, and I get it. I get a lot of satisfaction from from hugging our community. I did that a lot while we were over there. And then just picking up what you said, Berenice, about after Chester, how you felt quite flat that week afterwards. And I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't have a chance. Because we went on that whirlwind tour, meeting all different people, and that was fantastic. That was really, really good. But I want to echo what you said too, Sarah, about St Pancras and how comfortable, how fun it was, and like you say, bottle it up. But I think there's also something in there where if we could have somehow, I don't know, visually captured that, it would go a long way to help those who are struggling right now, to see that what's possible. So how I don't know how we could do it, but that would be fantastic. And that was a real highlight. Just meeting everyone, meeting you guys, knowing you got legs, that sort of thing. Meeting Ticker, meeting Jim as well.
Don't forget the dog.
Oh, Molly.
Yeah, Vicky and Molly have been exchanging messages. So
is Molly cheating on you then?
I think there's a loyalty problem there, literally. She was in her bed just down here by me, and Vicky was chatting. She was going, "Molly," and the dog's ears were like this, which doesn't often happen, I have to say. We're at nap time. She's gone out this morning now to take her for a walk, but yeah. Get the dog in there. Let's be honest, though, I was just like completely disposed of being the number one human. Very besotted by you two, that's for sure, by all of you.
So before we go on to boundaries, I just want to say a big shout out to our community, to the people we've got in our circuit community. You are all awesome. You have made me grow. And there are some of you that have had personal messages from me will understand that even more than others. So thank you. It's really privileged. I feel really privileged to be part of a group with you all, and that's you two included.
Yeah. Don't you set me off again. I'll start crying. I mean, stop crying.
All right, let's get to boundaries. Then.
Yeah, come on, because the Bernie's crying again. Which one of us, isn't it? And it's me.
Well, Vicky and I were having a chat today, actually, because, as I said, we've been feeling quite flat and we've been trying to figure it out. And one of them is, this time of year. Mm-hmm. And, what are we going to do? I mean, we don't know the answer. We don't know the answer to it, but it is around how do you protect yourself, but at the same time, how much do you expose yourself to the things you don't want to?
That's true. I think boundaries is, I've inferred probably in the previous bit of the podcast about boundaries. I think it's a lot of it, I'm quite sure, is tied up with worth as well, and trying to show up too. I'm quite sure of that. I've been terribly bad at it in the past. I remember I worked in an agency. It's kind of going back to what you're talking about working in going back to that job that you had, that awful time you had over the summer, Sarah. And I've been in that position to empathise very much with that I worked in places that have been terrible. I remember when I was going through IVF, I worked in this agency. It took hours of my life, and it wasn't actually even my own business. That was the bit. And I was often there like 9-11 at night passing proofs. And then through some kind of conversation, I worked out that the editor who was keeping me back because they just weren't particularly organised at what they were doing, was earning twice as much as me. Yeah. And I think I was just like, they were stopping me going home and having a life and trying to do the IVF alongside it. And a lot of that actually tied into the fact that I didn't think anybody else would employ me. So again, I felt like I had to show up and work more and prove that I could do it. Because at one point they tried to demote me because they thought I wouldn't be able to cope with my job. Wow. Not that the job that they demoted me to was going to be any better or less kind of like intense. This is kind of, I was managing editorial and design teams at the time. And the guy that they got in to replace me, he lasted about a month, and then I went back again, and I thought, I'll let it play out. I did get more money for it, but it was still it left an impact. I mean, there's the happy news is that I did end up working for a very big, lovely book publisher. And they took me on, and I got different boundaries were better because it was a proper company. But often that's the thing with some of these agencies, I think, because some jobs, they do stretch us with boundaries, because certainly in my experience in design, you get a lot of design startups and it's just like, well, yay, from the front side, and we can do this together, and actually behind it literally is that typical iceberg where it all looks glossy and lovely with the shiny logo and what they do, and underneath it really is just chaos on wheels. It's awful, and the staff welfare is really bad, and the pay tends to be really crap. So and I think a lot of that was, for me at the time, connected to worth and lack of self-care, not feeling I needed self-care because I was failing at IVF and failing at being a parent, and that I think does affect boundaries. Me anyway, that's my kind of personal reflection on where I was. That's not necessarily related to Christmas, I know, and the holiday season, but I think just generally as a kind of an attitude, my attitude towards boundaries was very mixed up at that time. I've learnt a lot this year about it, but that's how I felt about boundaries, or have been in the past.
No, I actually think you're right. I mean, my boundaries were always pretty appalling. They either were incredibly leaky and I'd put up with all sorts, or they were very rigid and I'd shut myself away from people. And I never seemed to get a happy medium, because it was all, I think when you've got low self-esteem, which I very much did, it's kind of linked to how your mood is in that moment, and it can be very erratic. Mine was, my mental health was all over the show, I think, and it's kind of intrinsically linked, isn't it? So I'd put up with all sorts of nonsense at work, and then outside of work I'd be very lonely because I wouldn't want to be, I'd feel sapped dry by pretzeling around people that I had no business pretzeling around and accommodating. And then I was tired because I'm an introvert. I had no way of sort of, I don't like the word self-care. I use responsibly selfish. I wasn't responsibly selfish because I didn't believe that I deserved it. And then so my boundaries were very rigid, and I was very lonely outside of work because I didn't think, I didn't think people would like me, basically. So I was people pleasing and then not able to accommodate outside work. And I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on, because I recognise how I used to be around my boundaries, to the point I've got a big family on one side, big Irish Catholic family, so lots of children, to the point that I would go to family do's around Christmas or anniversaries or whatever, when actually I didn't really want to be there. I would rather have said no, but I was people pleasing, and so I didn't. So I'd go and I'd get really upset, and then I'd feel like shit for weeks afterwards because I didn't have it in me to say no. And I think that is intrinsically linked with how you feel about yourself.
Absolutely agree with that. I think it's one of the things I've trying to stop doing is doing yes and no with a because. The one thing that yes and no aren't feelings, they're statements. So, yes, I can do this. No, I can't do that. That's it. But what I've done is, no, I can't do that because. One example actually is actually going back to my dog. No, I can't take her to the pub because she's too old to lie on a hard floor. It hurts her bones. She's too old. She's in pain, gets very stiff, very sore. If I put that in, there's room for a fix. But you can do. We can just go for a short while. We can, no, it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, an hour, whatever. And a drink isn't 5 minutes in the pub anyway. It still hurts. And that's a very simple example. It's the first one that comes to mind. I can't think of another one right now, but there's other things, I can't come to your Christmas party because there's too many children there and I find it too upsetting. no, I can't come. And I think also just acknowledging probably in that sort of, that complex thing of self-care is kind of what is that to somebody. I personally feel that it's perfectly okay to have a stack of books, and that's an appointment, in my opinion. I don't watch television a great deal or anything much, unless it's the Muppets Christmas Carol. I don't tend to watch anything much at Christmas, because I find it too triggering, too upsetting, most of it. I don't know what's going to happen. So I just get a whole stack of books. No Mo Book Club is a really good place to go to look for recommendations and ask in the community as well. I get myself a World of Books delivery, stack them up. That's my appointment. No, I can't come along. If I said no, I can't come along because I'm actually sitting in bed reading a pile of books and I'm okay with that. People, but you can't do that. So why not? I'm not telling people what I'm doing. I just can't. But that's hard, because I think that yes and no, there aren't feelings, and you unleash feelings in other people, don't you? I guess people get angry and hurt and disappointed, but that's their feeling. It's not yours to fix, or ours to fix, rather. We can't relieve uncomfortable emotions in other people. But it's really hard to sort of sit with that discomfort if you're empathetic and caring, which I think everybody in this community that I've ever met is so empathetic, so caring, and so kind. But sometimes that can feel like we've got to kind of I don't know, we have to sponge in somehow other people's emotions when they think, they can offload their feelings of hurt and anger because we've said no to something. I think that can be really hard. And that also, you sort of feel like there's a bit of guilt. I certainly do. I feel a bit of guilt that I'm not doing certain things, but I've tried really hard this year to go, actually, there's only one person that's going to look after me, and that's me. Literally, I have to do that. That's what I need to do. And that I find that really hard. I do. I find that quite tricky, but I'm getting better at it. I started off in a work sense, in a business sense, I suppose, because I run my own business, because podcast, because of the studying and things. It was quite easy. No, it wasn't easy. It was really difficult. It was really painful. But clients can come to me and go, it's urgent. It's design. It really isn't going to sort of, I don't think I've ever worked on anything that's been so life-changing and life-threatening in design in my entire existence of my career. It's not urgent. But actually what I now do is I have a thing where if it's urgent, here's the rush fee. And it's this much, and it's a lot, because that basically means that I have to then pass on any current work to somebody else. And if someone brings something in now that isn't the way that I work, and these are my tried and trusted systems, they're my trusted systems, because actually I know my job well and I've done it for years. I know these systems work. And if someone comes in and goes, no, we're going it my way, I'm not your person. Not your person. You're not working with me, because I know my job well enough to know that this works. You can go find somebody else, and that's what you do. Because I've done a lot of that in the past, where people have come and they've given me just stuff and we do it my way. Some people give me stuff and they go, it's this way, and they might not know the tech, or they might not know how to do something, in which case the coaching comes in actually in this part, and it's kind of like, okay, we can do this together. Are you open to being coached and to learn with me? And usually they are. I've only had one person that just literally overstepped their boundaries on that, and I learned hard from that, because I've had a tough time with that, and it rattled me an awful lot and changed my perception of that person and about how we were working together. But it mostly changed my perception of myself, and I felt dreadful afterwards, because I knew I hadn't set my boundary. What I should have said was, no, we're not working together, but here's someone who could probably do that with you better. And that's what I should have done at that time. So I kind of practiced it in that regard. I'm not quite so good, I suppose, perhaps, at personal stuff, but I've gotten better, because actually what I know is that if I don't do those things and I don't set those boundaries, I'm back to working all week. I have to work weekends sometimes. I know, Sarah, you and I both work for ourselves and for the people that you do. That's kind of the nature of what we do. But I'm now realizing that if I do that, I need to take a day off during the week. And that might be, like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and I'm going something completely different. I might go and see my friends. I might go and see my parents. I'll go and do something, or it might just be half an hour or afternoon rather, of just taking my dog out or sitting on the sofa reading a book. But that's my time, and I need that. And that means I have to be quite firm and acknowledge that I'm living with the relief of setting my boundaries as opposed to the guilt that might come from carrying and absorbing somebody else's feelings, because that's their feelings. They'll get over it. They'll have to. That's their problem. It's not mine. But that's a really tough lesson to learn. I'm sitting with my hands on my chest because I'm feeling all this is sort of in here, because it's hard. It really is hard, particularly I think when it comes to Christmas and to families, because like you said, Sarah, the expectation is so high from people that, are doing these things where it's a family dinner, and we've got to turn up and be something we're not because it suits them, not us. I advocate a curry on Christmas dinner and time alone. I think, I think Christmas is a bit like, it's just can be anything. It doesn't have to be anything at all, actually, in my book. I think that's okay too.
What about you, Michael? How did you find it?
I doubt that our family will listen to this podcast. So, Christmas is always a difficult time for us. Always has been. We have people in our family that don't understand or don't want to understand our position, and it has been explained to them many times, but it doesn't matter. When I think about when I'm telling someone about boundaries, I actually do give them a reason, because for me, the way my brain works, it's like, right, no, I can't. Here's the reason why. Now you got to deal with that. You deal with that. I'm telling you what it is. I'm telling you why I can't. Now it's your issue. It's something you need to come to terms with, you need to deal with. Mm. And I find that helps, again, the way my mind works, I find that helps a lot. Now, it takes a lot of courage to do that. Mm-hmm. Because, I can do that. Vicky finds it very difficult to do, because she tends to, like you, Berenice, she tends to take, very empathetic, and tends to take on that feeling of guilt, I guess. Whereas I'm a bit more of a bastard, and I don't. As I said, I just think, okay, I've told you what it is, deal with it. There you go. And I can walk away from that. But having said that, then you've got to also navigate the fact, though, that like family, for instance, you don't want to actually be isolated from other members of your family, because not everyone in your family's, the bad person, shall we say. So then it's how do you deal with that to make sure that you're still being, the brother or the sister to those other members of your family? It makes it very difficult. So from a practical sense, what we do is at Christmas time, we may have the morning for ourselves, and then we do evening with family. And or it may be, and usually what will happen is that evening with family will be without the people that we don't see eye to eye with. And and that's what we do. But it's still stressful, because you worry about what people think about you. You worry about, people saying bad things about you. Do you worry, about how you're perceived, or if people are not telling the truth about you? There's all those things that come into it. So yeah, it is not a good time for us. But yeah, we don't have the magic answer, but yeah, we muddle through, support each other, best you can do, I think.
Yeah, I think you're very, very right. I think it's so individual, isn't it? For someone to turn around and say, these are the 3 steps you need to take, you can't, it's not a one size fits all. I mean,
No.
the way, so I struggle with Christmas as well, to be honest. It's some years I don't bother celebrating at all. You know, I do the present thing and we don't have any decorations up. You know, sometimes I just don't want to. And other years I'll do the whole shebang. But every year Christmas Day is on our own because I don't want to be surrounded by triggers. We used to do the thing where we'd go around the family and that, and it was hellish. And it's not fair, I think, on other people to witness you feeling like shit or having to pretend that you're okay and then dash to the toilets. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We think we're being selfish when actually we're helping ourselves out. And we're also stopping people seeing our pain as well, because people will see it. They know you, don't they? And actually I found going, actually, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're just going to spend the day on our own and maybe, do family stuff later on. But I think actually I found that I stopped caring what other people think. I had to, because otherwise, we're all very empathic and you tie yourself up in knots, can't you, thinking, oh, well, I've disappointed so-and-so. Oh, God, I'm going to have to make that up to them. I think you've just got to focus in on what you need at that time. So if it's not to celebrate, don't celebrate. If it is to celebrate, then do it in your own way. But I think you have to, it's hard, don't get me wrong. The disappointment you see on people's faces when you say, no, I'm not doing that, is hard to sit with. But I guess it's part of adulting. Every adult has to go through disappointment, don't they? And if that's me saying no, because actually my mental health is very important to me, then I'd rather be selfish than actually put myself through it. So, but it's a one size fits all, I think. Not a one size fits all, forgive me. You have to make your own way through it, don't you, sometimes?
Yeah, I think that's it. There's a lot of stuff I've noticed coming up on social media. 3 stops to boundaries. And all the rest of it. It's not, because the people that we're spending our time with, they're all very different.
Yeah.
We have people in our lives who want to fix us. We've got people in our lives who probably would listen if we gave them half the chance. We've got people in our lives who sort of avoid us as well. They don't want us around there. Just like, oh no, I can't deal with that too. As well as all our own mixed emotions as well. And this levy, this expectation too. I go very inward on Christmas Day. I mourn. Oh, I'm really emotional today. This is really ridiculous, but I mourn the Christmases I had as a kid. We had this routine. I don't know if I've spoken about it. I probably have on the podcast, and if I have, my apologies for boring you again with it, but we had a routine. My grandparents invited everybody. If you married in the family, they'd invite, all those in-laws in as well. It didn't matter who you were. So there'd be just piles of people around the house, and my grandmother cooking, and they had another kitchen upstairs. It sounds very posh, this house. It really wasn't. It was a rag bag of a house, but it was a big house. And so everyone used to pile around there. It was massive. And we had a routine to the day that meant Christmas presents weren't until the afternoon. And so the whole day was something going on. And that, when I'm now, Christmas, I'm like, oh, I didn't used to do the Queen. I think the Queen's speech might have gone on something else, but it wasn't something we all sat down and watched. But the day, I'm like, oh, this time we'd be doing this, and this time we'd be doing this, and this time we'd be doing this, and that. It's still ingrained in my memory because it was timed.
Yeah.
Not but it's a big thing. And I think probably, one member of my family would have really struggled with that. And I know she would have done. And I was too young to know about these things and too young to know, and their life has now changed and they are now a grandmother. So, but that story comparison sits think, in our family too. So I found that really hard
Mm.
to deal with. I have that kind of, I always feel like people say, you've not got over it yet. So I've gone from that sort of thing where it was nice to kind of now going very, very inwards, to the point where I can be completely uncommunicative on Christmas Day. I find it hard, and I have to put on a big act, which is very exhausting. So by the time kind of Christmas evening comes round, I'm at home and I'm crashed out. I've got nothing left to give at all. It's really hard. And I've tried so many things. I've tried spending the day completely on my own. I've tried spending the day with my dog. I've tried doing variations of everything. I thought Molly would fix it. It's a huge weight to levy on a dog, isn't it? She's just a dog. It's a lovely one, but no, it doesn't fix it. It's a really tough day. And I think for me, one of the things that I've probably dealt about better is actually just to largely kind of ignore it. I just had a message in the chat. I think childhood Christmases, yes, I think they can be so hard. I can feel myself welling up now. They must have been very difficult on my family, because they literally were like, you have to come, there's no choice. It didn't matter, you were kind of like, you come along. It had to be a really bloody good excuse to get out of that.
We were the same, and like, the whole day. So you'd have your presents, then you go around my grandparents, and my nan would put on a spread. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was an Irish salad she'd put on, like an Irish buffet. So you get your iceberg lettuce, your cucumber, your tomatoes, your ham, your boiled eggs.
That's what I used to have for tea. That was Christmas tea, which literally followed Christmas lunch. It was just like, God,
the best thing. And you could try and replicate it at home, but it was never the same. But yeah, that's what we used to do. And it's kind of, there is a grief in that, isn't there? Because it's kind of like, I sit indoors and we do presents, and then we have something to eat, and that's it pretty much. And you might sit and watch films and stuff, but it's not the same. And there's a real grief in it, isn't there? It's a real loss. And it's kind of, I think we can make our own traditions, but you're still going to have that loss of, well, actually, if we'd had kids, would we be more sociable? Would we go out and do this stuff?
Yeah, that cropped into my head the other day. I again, like you, Michael, I don't think any of my family will listen to this, but if they are, then I'm still going to go on with the authenticity here and say that I don't tend to get invited to stuff. My cousins have dues with their kids, and I kind of think it's like the Secret Santa exclusion as well, which I've talked about before, is that there's a whole Secret Santa going on in my family that we've been excluded from. And we found out about a year or so later, and that was tough. Man, that was tough. That was really tough. It was like, that hurt, because no one thought to ask us. Someone made a decision on our behalf that we wouldn't want to be involved in. Actually just ask. But anyway, aside from that, I was thinking, like, if I had kids, I wouldn't. It's not the mourning of childlessness so much at Christmas for me. It's not mourning children. Because frankly, sometimes I listen to stories from friends of mine who are parents, and it just sounds hideous. It's the fact that not having children means I don't get invited to things. And if I did get invited to things, I wouldn't quite know what to do. So the boundary's there to protect myself. But then I think, well, should I just go and test it out? But I know that probably it's going to be pretty crap. I'm not sure what the safety net is that I need in place for that, so I kind of just avoid all of it. But then this popped up, I think. I can't think where it popped up. One thing that occurred to me also is that I'm not an aunt. One of our conversations we had in the community, and it's about, I'm not an aunt. So my parents aren't grandparents. So that's another thing where I don't have that kind of connection either. It's another kind of bit where it's kind of like another level of exclusion as well that can be quite hard to live with, I think. Don't get that sort of And not that being an aunt and an uncle is a really hard. I'm sure that it is. I don't have that experience. I'm not even going to attempt to talk about that because it's not something I know of. But I do know that I've sort of the dread of, oh God, what if they have kids hangs over me, and now that's gone because of age. But it was always there. But not having that connection means there's no kind of way in that regard. I'm just completely like, oh, Berenice has nothing like that. So he doesn't need to come over. So often, actually, sometimes not being asked means I don't have a boundary to set. It's just exclusion. That's really quite tough as well.
Yeah.
Different experience, not perhaps one that's for everybody, but I want to throw it in there because I know that it came up and I feel that isolation very much.
No, I think it's a good point. It's kind of boundaries is all tied in with where we feel we fit, isn't it, in the family unit? Because it changes, doesn't it? If no one's had kids, but there's a network going on that you're excluded from, there's that, isn't there? And it's like, well, where do I fit? And I also think there's our own feelings around how we're turning up and who we are after not having kids. But I also think that there's like an amount of unsaids, isn't there? So if we can't sort of say, for me, what I struggle with is sort of explicitly saying sometimes what my needs are. You know, some days I'll talk about stuff with my family, and then other days I'm like, I don't want to talk about this shit today, thank you. And it's kind of that movable boundary, isn't it? And helping people, I guess, adjust around it, because they're like, I don't know what I'm doing here, because Sarah was fine with it last time, now she's telling me she's not. And I think sometimes we kind of lose sight of what our needs are in this. You know, there is a morning, but there is also, well, what do I want here for Christmas Day? Do I want to be on my own? Is it going to change? You know, like I said, some years I celebrate, some years I don't. It's very, very confusing, I think, even for us.
Oh God, yeah, you don't quite know what you're going to feel like probably until the morning.
No, exactly that, you know.
That's really hard if you're trying to sort of make a plan, but actually it's also emotive. People want to know, do I put do I stick another Yorkshire pudding in the oven or whatever, those sort of boring practical things, and you can't really answer until that morning. Then you'll sort of seen as also being, the perception is unreliable. People are generally better at dealing with kind of stuff like, you know, a broken leg than they are about emotions. It's really hard, and particularly emotions, I think, that they don't necessarily know or can empathize with. Best one in the world. I think that's hard. I think it's hard for us as a community. You know, I think, you know, I have this lovely idea in my head each year that I'd like to do a Christmas thing here with friends who are childless. So all come round, do something here. But actually, I don't know that I could do that emotionally. I don't know that I could. Despite everyone being at the table, being, you know, we don't have children, I'd still probably find that hard. It's a lovely thought, and maybe someone might go off and do that, but I don't think I'm that person, because I think it's too difficult, because the day itself is so loaded with past memories. They don't go away, and they don't leave us either. I sort of tried to run away from them before. I kind of now realizing I've just got to accept them and go, these are the memories I have, and this is the grief. But actually, maybe today I can do something else that's, you know, somehow acknowledge that grief. Maybe that's a ritual, maybe it's something else that isn't necessarily going away and doing something, but it's maybe just sitting, maybe it's meditating on that and going, okay, this is the grief I've got. And then going and doing something else. I think I know we've done stuff in the past in the podcast, so what else can you do on Christmas Day? But actually it's not that easy to do, because I know people have volunteered at food banks and done stuff like that, but there is still the Christmas, you know, and it's still there. It's still the tinsel out and the need to wear a stupid hat and a jumper, which not everybody can do. Yeah. I feel like we've kind of been quite sort of mournful about this, but I think it's realistic and honest. We could offer some practical stuff, but again, I think it's individual.
I think it's very tricky. I think it's got lots of triggers involved in it, and our triggers can be quite individual, can't they? So, we've had a sort of everyone sort of saying, yeah, I mourn the Christmases of my childhood. So there's that. Some people may not. They may have had, miserable Christmases going back, and so there's that real difference, isn't there? And can we all sit with it? But I guess as well, it's the invisibility of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it is, and I think also you also got New Year as well, and it was like one boom boom after the other, and that gap in between can be really weird. But New Year, I think, is also a tough one too. I mean, I don't know about you two, but I just go to bed and ignore the whole thing. That was one day, that was another day, and that's it. It's just other days. It's another day. It's just what it is.
We tend to go over to see friends who also don't have children, and we play board games, and 9 times out of 10 it's 2:00 before we realise that midnight has been and gone, because you're so.
I want to come do that with you. I like board games. We talked about board games before, haven't we?
Yes.
We're quite good at board. We like the board game thing.
Yeah, but I guess it's individual, isn't it? It's whatever's going to make it feel more comfortable for you.
Yeah,
you can do, really.
I think my only advice would be just to ramp up that. Again, like, you're not comfortable with the word self-care, but that self-care, really, really, really dig into it. Really dig into it, because we have to look after ourselves and to lean into others as well. It's probably a good time to mention that the podcast, the Full Stop, in our community, we've got a community conversation at 1:00 on Christmas Day. We have a community conversation at 1:00 on Boxing Day as well, and they'll be hosted by us, or a combination thereof as well, because that is something that we want to do. We're trying it out, we're going to see, but if you want to join the community, then do that. You can just join for a month. We've also got gift memberships as well, so if you are listening to this and thinking, I don't know what I want to ask for something but I don't know what it is, and you can, on our website, find the gift membership too. It'll be in the show notes as well. I'll make sure that it's all in there, but you can buy a membership for somebody else, or you can ask for it for yourself. But I would use wisely. If people are listening to this and they are parents and they're thinking, oh, I know so-and-so, and they don't have children, they might like this. Ask first. Don't just assume people want to join our community. I probably just wouldn't do that. This is a disclaimer, because it's a very sensitive thing. It's not for everybody, and it might well be that they perhaps aren't, unless they've told you they're childless not by choice. They might not be, might be child free. They might have made all sorts of different decisions behind it. It's complex, as I'm sure you know as listeners, but for those that would like it, it's there, and come along as long as you want and join in with us as well. That's cool. We'd more than welcome you into our space. And we'll be having other community conversations as well. There's also a Christmas card exchange as well, which takes place within our community as well. Sorry, this all sounds very community centric, but it is a safe space. So those of you who are listening and thinking, I'm not a member, we offer different ways in, so please do come and find us if you want to. But one of the great things about the community is that it is safe, and it's for everybody who is childless not by choice. So there's all genders welcome, regardless of race, age, sexuality, all those things. Everyone is welcome, providing you identify as childless not by choice. And we do check and make sure that that's the case for everybody. We're very careful about that, and we honour and treasure everybody in it and look after you as you look after us. It's reciprocal.
Yeah. So it wasn't all teeth and tinsel, this one, was it?
It wasn't. But it's great to have the support there as well. Would you like me to end recording? Was there anything else you would like to add?
I guess I'd just like to wish listeners a peaceful and restful time, as peaceful and as restful as you can make it.
Ditto. Well done.
Yeah, look after yourselves, be kind to yourselves. Don't feel that you have to do things you don't want to do. It's your time too. Yours, your time. It's very precious. Look after you. You're important. You're important to all of us. Have a peaceful time.
Thanks for listening. We hope you found our conversation comforting. We'd love to hear from you if you found this topic interesting, or how you've been able to get to grips with Christmas yourself. If you find yourself needing support this coming Christmas, because it can be a tough time of year, we're going to be around over the Christmas period in live chats both within the community and to those that aren't in the Full Stop online community, as we have an open house chat on Thursday the 28th of December. If you'd like to join us for any of these chats, we'd love to see you. All the details, including how to register, can be found on our website at www.thefullstoppod.com/event. If you'd like to find out more about our podcast, or you have a great idea for a topic we've not yet covered, or you'd just like to revisit one, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We want this podcast to have as many voices from across our community as possible, so if something's missing, or you just want a deeper dive on it, let us know. You can find us on Facebook, Insta, Twitter and LinkedIn. You can also become a member of our brand new online community, which is a safe and inclusive space for anyone that's a member of the Childers community. For more details, see our website at www.thefullstoppod.com. You can also sign up to our listeners list at the website, which keeps you up to date on what we're up to, and if you'd like to, you can also donate to our work too. As always, it's important for us to remind you, you're really not alone.
Oh God, I'm going to cry again. Jeez.
All right, turn the recording off. Go on.
Oh God. Let's turn the recording off. I'm not crying. Stop recording.